Hello YouTube, my name is Corey and I am the hand-drawn violist. Want to welcome everybody to the channel who's new and give a great big welcome back and thank you to everybody who's found me via other social media and followed me here or is subscribed to my YouTube channel. Today I want to introduce a pretty special project. It's a project that's been in the works for probably a good 9 months to a year now. And that project is the Animal Nouveau Tarot, which is a tarot deck with animals as all of the characters, done in the Art Nouveau style. Sort of the inspiration behind this project was, I needed a big portfolio piece, and a whole bunch of my favorite artists on the internet were either in the middle of tackling their own decks or had tackled decks, and I thought they were the coolest thing ever and decided that I was gonna take a shot. It's a lot bigger project than I anticipated. It took a lot of research into the tarot itself because I had never had much experience with the cards outside of seeing them randomly from artists on the internet and going, oh, what is this thing? This thing looks really cool. So there was a whole bunch of research into the tarot itself to figure out which animals to put on each of the cards, and also a whole bunch of research into the Art Nouveau style. This style sort of captured me about a year ago, and I started reading a whole bunch of things about it and looking at a whole bunch of art and watching some animation that's inspired by this style, and I am just totally smitten. But it took a lot of research to get it to the point where I could recreate it even sort of. It's super interesting. I find, Art Nouveau is a very, very graphic style. But within that, there's this level of realism that's just absolutely incredible. It's really neat. It's a great blend between the two. And there's a lot of super, heavy graphic design elements. I have the utmost respect for the people who were doing this manually every day. Back when Art Nouveau was super, super big. I don't know how they did it without going crazy, doing all of these circles, inking all of these circles traditionally, and then painting them in and not messing things up is super, super scary. But I think it makes it worth it, especially at the end when you're finished inking. You can just be like, oh my gosh, these lines turned out fantastic. And it looks so good, and it took so much work to get it there, but it's really worth it. So, a little bit about the cards that I'm doing. The one on the left is the High Priestess. She is a snowy owl with lots of influence from the moon. And on the right, the Phoenix is Death, which is, that's the card that everybody sees in the movies, and it's like, oh my gosh, someone's gonna die. One of my favorite things about researching the tarot is I found out that was not the case. Death is more about, the fact that something has died, yes, but something wonderful is about to spring forth from this death. It's a very cyclical card about the death and rebirth of things, which is why I went with the Phoenix motif. And you can see on the screen here, I have a couple of the High Priestess cards out on the working desk just as an example. I drew from multiple influences and multiple different card decks, and you'll notice that the one on the table right now has an owl on it. You see owls in a lot of the High Priestess cards, just because it's a card about the nighttime, and it's closely influenced by the moon cycles and feminine energy, which is traditionally, lunar energy and things like that. So I really wanted to sort of echo that in my card design, with the owl with her wings forming the chalice shape for a woman, and the moon cycles above her head, from the waning and the full moon and the waxing, and right above in those, what are right now just white circles, those will be pomegranates, because you tend to see pomegranates on a lot of the High Priestess cards. I decided to go with watercolor for these, just because it has that nice soft ethereal feel. My favorite tarot deck, the Shadowscapes Tarot deck, is the one that you see on the table right now that was also done in watercolor. I draw some influence from that deck, not a ton, since that art style really is not my forte, but it works. And you'll see on the iPad I keep flashing up the Rider-Waite-Smith, which is your, everybody knows that deck. That's the deck you think of when you think of tarot cards. Especially just because I can never remember which pillar is the black pillar and which pillar is the white pillar on this card, so I'm just keep flipping it up. I eventually just wrote it down on the masking tape under the image so that I didn't have to have the iPad covering the phoenix anymore. So I'm almost nearing the end of the actual watercoloring for this piece. The High Priestess took off super long time just because I had to wait for everything to dry in between the layers on that owl, because you do all the black markings and I had to wait for those to completely 100% dry before I could add in shadows and highlights, just so that I didn't move anything or have it smudge, and so that the black spots on the feathers looked integrated into the picture. And snowy owls are kind of neat. On the insides of their wings, the black markings aren't actually there. You can just see the shadows of them from the light shining through, and I really wanted to try and capture that. I think I got most of the way there. I'm not super happy with it, like with that effect in particular, but I am super happy with how the card turned out. And that's about it on that card. You'll see I'll go back and fix things and micromanage drawing. But that one's pretty much done, and you'll see me going in on the roses, again with a lot of the lifting of the paint, just because they're white roses. White roses are a pretty important symbol on the death card itself. The original Rider-Waite version has death on a white horse with a black flag that has a white rose on it, and that's supposed to be the symbol of rebirth on that card. People just focus too much on the big Grim Reaper guy, which is why I picked the Phoenix. But I wanted to carry that influence of the original card into the painting, and that's why you see the white roses, and they'll be put on a super, super dark, not completely black. I don't like using black in my watercolor, but a super, super, super dark background just to sort of add that in and just pay a homage to the original card. The Phoenix is something that's sort of special to me. I know if you've been following me for a while, you've probably seen this Phoenix design. She's sort of a personal emblem of mine, because I found that my life just tends to follow that death and rebirth cycle. Things will just go absolutely crazy and you'll think the world is over, and then suddenly something beautiful will spring from it. I've made a lot of mistakes and I've had a lot of horrible things happen to me, but I wouldn't take those experiences back for the world, because they've really made me who I am. And some of my favorite opportunities have sprung from those horrible, horrible situations, which is why I sort of took the Phoenix as a personal emblem. So this card is super personal to me, and I was super excited to get it done. It's why it's one of the first cards that I'm showing you guys. It was probably the first card to be designed after the Fool, which if you've followed me on other social media, you've probably seen that card. I did it as a proof of concept just to test out my materials, to make sure that my watercolor technique level was high enough to do this deck, because that's kind of intimidating, right? Because you're signing up for 79 images if you do a card back, 78 if you recycle some artwork for your card back, and that's a lot of art to try and keep consistent. But my skill level is just about there. It's fantastic watercolor practice. I had a lot of fun with some wet on wet washes in the flames you see under the phoenix. And of course the phoenix itself, all those gradients, right? My goodness. I end up going back in, especially on the phoenix, after it's all dried with some colored pencil just to bring out some shadows, because it dried a little flatter than I had liked. But aside from that, it's all here. It's the whole thing. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and here's a close-up of the 2 cards. Go ahead and give a like and subscribe if you like seeing this and would like to see more. And go ahead and give me a follow on other social media. I have links down below. Thanks so much for hanging out.